What's up, guys? This is Corey with the Dirt City Gym, back with another deck profile for y'all today. So, as everybody knows, the Mecha World is coming here in the next like 2 weeks or so. We just actually got finished with the big San Jose regional, where it's kind of Mecha's last stands. I've been kind of wanting to wait until post San Jose, when really all the last big tournament Mecha hype has died down, and we can kind of move forward into our next format and things like that. Before I got into more deck lists, but now that that's all over with, now we can actually get into the decks. So today we are going to be looking at Cell, or Androids, whatever you want to call it. We are using the Cell leader as opposed to the Android leader, and I'll get into that choice why later. But the main point of our deck is going into the Cell chain. By now, pretty much everybody knows what the Cell chain does. Whenever you go into the big 7-drop Cell off of Union Absorb, your opponent discards their hand down to 3, and then pretty much your win condition. You get them down on a low hand, and you kind of swing and kind of take the game over from there. There's obviously all sorts of different types of ways people like to run the Cell chain. One of the most popular ones, especially, I wouldn't say necessarily more recently. The Cell chain has kind of died out more recently, but prior to really this big like mecha explosion, was doing it with Androids, Android 17, Android 17, 18 on the flip side. The reason why I prefer, at least for the moment, the Cell leader as opposed to the Android leader is I feel like, at least moving forward, veggies are going to be really big a thing. And people who are not familiar with the veggies, when I'm talking about veggies, I'm talking about the kale, kava, and cauliflower package. Kind of get out a bunch of little green Saiyans and do all sorts of really crazy stuff. They can get a really dominant board presence by turn 2, turn 3, just kind of depending on what's going on. Obviously, we've seen that really prolific in the Mecha leader. It's still going to be big even when Mecha eroded, whether it be with Mecha, it be with Ginyu, be with Bardock, any yellow Saiyan leader, or any yellow leader, excuse me, that has access to Sugesh, Galactic Emperor Frieza, Golden Frieza, however you want to do it. There's lots of different ways to still capitalize on the Veggie package. Even if you're not running yellow, there are still things that can use the Veggie package efficiently. There's even versions of Cell that run the Veggie package. So for me, the reason why I prefer Cell over Androids is Cell has built-in board control just on his leader. So on Cell, the front side, he has an activate main. Once per turn, you may place a card underneath him, and then you choose one of your opponent's battle cards at energy cost of 3 or less and KO it. Whenever you awaken, you place a card underneath Cell, and you draw 2 cards. Then you remove 2 cards underneath Cell and place them in the drop, and then you destroy one of your opponent's battle cards regardless of energy cost. So very strong stuff. Just on the front, you're just, by putting cards underneath him, you're board wiping. So you're getting rid of copies, you're getting rid of Cauliflas. On the back is when you can start getting rid of Kales and bigger threats like that, kind of just depending on what it is. And then obviously, I find that in the mirror, Cell leader is probably more proficient, because even if they get the Cell chain off on you early, as long as you're awakened, you can just start putting a card underneath him and draw back up to 2 cards, which gets you up to 5, 6 off of your draw charge. You've got, you still got 5 cards in hand, and all sorts of different options in the deck to kind of capitalize on that. I've tested this a bunch in the mirror, whether it be at my locals or online in Octagon, and I've not lost the mirror match, whether it be to Cell leader or Android's leader, just because being able to get those 2 cards and everything like that. Not only that, being able to draw into that, you're able to draw into your pieces really well. Let's say you're missing something, you can just put a card underneath and draw 2. On your awakening turn, you're drawing 4, so it's really strong stuff there. So yeah, that is just kind of why I prefer Cell leader at the moment. I think long term, Androids is still probably the way to go, 17 and 18, but this is a very definite meta call. If you know you're going to be expecting a lot of veggies or a lot of aggro or things like that, I feel like Cell leader is more appropriate for those type of things. If things start to slow down a little bit, we kind of go back into the format we were, where not necessarily starter queue is really dominating things, but it's a little slower than what it is right now. Android 17 and 18, and maybe even Mira would probably be better options, but I just feel like in the moment, Cell is the best option for that. So we're going to go ahead and get into the deck list. So just for starters, on my Cell chain, I'm running a 4-4-4 count. In different versions of the deck, I've tested out like a 3-3-3 line. I used to really prefer a 3-3-3 line in just my 17 and 18 Androids leader list, but I feel like we really need to be as more consistent as possible. And the point of this deck is to be super consistent. Probably 90 to 95% of my games, I'm able to get off Cell chain on turn 3. It's not always optimal to get it off on turn 3, but I'm at least able to get it off on turn 3. So we run 3 of the 3 drop, 3 of the 5 drop, and then 3 of the 7 drop. Obviously, the 3 drop, You put a 17 underneath him, you go get the 5-drop. Whenever the 5-drop comes into play off a Union Absorb, he kills a guy, and you draw a card. And then Union Absorb with an 18 underneath him, you go get the 7-drop, and then they discard down to 3. After that, we'll get into the rest of the list, more specific cards. So we've got, of our Android line themselves, we've got 3 Chilling Terror Android 17, 3 Dreadful Duo Android 17. I went with that split just because Chilling Terror in certain situations is really good, because whenever he's in play, as long as your your leader is an Android, your opponent doesn't draw cards whenever they awaken. So whenever they flip over, they're not drawing their 2. If you get in a situation where like I can't go off this turn with my cell chain, or they're kind of slow rolling you and they're not awakening whenever you want them to, you can put down a Chilling Terror and prevent them from drawing. Obviously, you do have the downside of playing against a bunch of leaders now, thanks to set 3, that don't draw whenever they awaken. So if you feel like that's something you have to go into, whether it's your meta dependent or things like that, you can switch those up and run maybe like a 4 count of the Dreadful Duo and like a 2 count of the Chilling Terrors instead. I'm not having a sideboard listed, but I do run another Dreadful Duo on the sideboard as well, to kind of, if I need to pull up the Chilling Terrors if I'm not getting a lot of value out of that. And then obviously Dreadful Duo Android 17, he's a 3-drop 2 green. He has critical and he's a 15k. The rest of his stuff, it's not irrelevant, but he's got the ability to activate main once per turn. If a card was put into your opponent's discard pile due to one of your card skills, you may pay a green and then put an Android 18 into play. I'll go ahead and be honest with you. Ideally, we're never really going to be using either of these abilities off of Dreadful Duo 17 or 18, but they are there and come weird type of situations. Very honestly, there's not very often that you really... Personally, that I actually end up playing a 17 or an 18, unless it's kind of a late game and I need that crit for some type of situation like that. But very rarely, I'm never really swinging with a 17 or 18. I want to keep them in my hand. Those are more my resources. So moving on into that, we have 4 Dreadful Duo Sister Android 17, or Android 18, excuse me. She has a similar ability. She's 3 cost 2 green, 15k crit. And then she has kind of the same thing. If a card is put in your opponent's discard pile due to one of your skills, pay a green, and then you can blow up a cost 3 or less card, I believe. So again, they're not bad at all. In a more 17-18 focused deck, you would definitely have options to play these because you're playing them for 2 and things like that. But we're really, like I said, we're not ever really wanting to play these. If we're going to play our 3, we're going to go into the cell, ideally. So moving on past that, we have 4 Dr. Giro. He is our Android tutor, so he's a 1 cost. Comes into play, 5k, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put an Android into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So really good. He gets all of our pieces. He gets our super combo, he gets all of our cell chain, he gets all of our 17s, all of our overwhelm cards are both Androids, so really nice stuff there. He does not get himself. He is a scientist, so he does not find himself, so just something to pay attention to. After that, we have 3 Terrible Creator Android 20. So he is a 2 cost 1 green. Whenever he comes into play, search your deck for a card with Android in its name and put it into your hand. So with that, we can find any of our Android 17s or 18s. We can find our super combo, and that's pretty much it. Those are kind of what we can find on our sideboard that, again, is not listed. I like to run Android 13 as well, so that's another card you could find if you needed it. But really, he's just kind of, if we're missing a piece on turn 2 and we don't really have a better play, we can drop him, go find it, and kind of get ready. We are kind of telegraphing at that point, so it's something to be aware of. But another thing that he's really good for is going and finding your super combos. Getting your Android 16s off of a 2-drop Android 20 is great. That's really like the best case scenario for getting for the Android 20 is to go get your Android your super combo Android 16. So next up, we have 3 martial arts expert Tien Shinhan. So he's a 3 cost 2 green. We're never gonna really have to pay to play him. He is a combo for 2. Whenever he comes, and then if you combo with him, if your opponent is green, if your leader is green, he comes into play. And he's got a really cool ability, activate main. You put a card from your life into your discard, put a card in your life from into your hand, and then you can KO one of your opponent's battle cards. And this is not a once per turn effect, so you can go all the way from 8 down to 4 life and awaken all in the same turn. So it's really our awakening condition. there's really weird situations where your opponent is going to attack you on turn 1 and leaves you at 7, which is a really awkward number. So ideally, you want to try to combo out of anything that's not going to leave you completely empty-handed if they're going to just swing at you once to leave you at 7. That's a really good strategy against cell leader as opposed to androids. So something to pay attention to. All right, so next up, going into our Overwhelm cards. So we have 3 Aura Destruction Mira. So whenever Overwhelm 3, whenever Mira comes into play, your opponent discards a card from your hand. So this is a really, really great combination in order to run after the Cell Chain. So ideally, you want a Cell Chain. They drop their hand to 3. You Overwhelm, put the Mira. They drop their hand to 2. You attack with the Mira. And then you can super combo up and make them discard their entire hand down, which is really strong stuff. Or if they have a guy on the field that you haven't killed yet, you can attack it, super combo, and make them discard their hand. So that's the really, emptying your hand is really the goal of the deck. And then finally, we've got 2 of the 4-drop Mira. He is for Overwhelm 4, comes into play. He's a 20k with crit. I'm only running 2. This is a very situational card. A lot of games I've been able to win with this card. You've already putting your opponent down to really low hand size. So you get them down super low, you Overwhelm, you bring out him, you swing with him, and then you give him double strike. And so they go down to 2, go down to 1, whatever it is, lethal is ideally what we want to get them down to. And then where they're not going to have enough to combo over whatever you're going to attack with, specifically Cell, generally speaking. So if you ever get in a situation where you attack with him, give him double strike, and make them discard cards out of their hand, they're not drawing cards out of their life because of the crit, and then you can swing him with lethal with one of your other threats. So I really like the card. He's more of a kind of, like I said, he's kind of a late game finisher, or just kind of a late game kind of messing up your opponent's turns. And then our last battle card, we've got our 4 Android 16 super combo. So what this does is obviously your life is at 4 or less, you may play this. It gets plus 10,000 power. And then if your leader is a green android, your opponent has to discard a card from their hand. So it's a little different from our normal super combos because we're not drawing a card off of it, but the effect is super strong, like I said, especially post dropping a Cell Chain down, getting them down to 3, down to 2 off the Mira, and then you can super combo up and make them completely discard their hand. It's really good messing up with your opponent's math with their hands and everything like that. Let's say they're going to go in, they're going to try to get you with the small guy first and then combo up. Then you can just drop super combos, make them empty out their hand, and kind of prohibit them from attacking again just because they don't have anything to combo with and things like that. So a lot of really cool things. When the card was first revealed, I'll be entirely honest, I was not a fan of it. I wasn't crazy about the negging or not getting a card out of your hand. So you're negging a card so your opponent can neg a card. But in playing with it, I love the card. It's nuts. Like being able to drop 2 of these at a time and make your opponent empty out their hand is just, it's crazy. Next up, we've got 3 Create Androids. So this is a 1 cost extra card. Draw 2 cards and put 1 card into your discard pile. So really great. It's my ideal turn 1 play. Always setting up to dig for the TN or dig for whatever I need and get. So this goes in the discard, and the card that you're discarding goes in the discard. So you're already loading up your Overwhelm for your Miras and everything like that. So really strong. And then finally, we've got 2 Surprise Attack is our Green Negate. And it negates the attack. And then if your leader is an android, you can discard a card and then you blow up a 3 or cost or less dude. Not super significant that you're ever going to blow up a guy. You could totally run the Black Negate over this if you felt like if it's better for you. You get a little bit more value off of it, or even this maybe Full Power Energy. You don't really get a lot out of Full Power Energy that you're not already getting in the deck, but Full Power Energy could be another option as well. But again, I'm only running 2. I'm running additional ones on my sideboard just in case I ever feel like I need additional negates, but that's really it. And then the last card that I forgot down here at the bottom is 4 Furthering Destruction Champa. So 1 cost, 10k combo. The card you combo off of this with gets double strike. So again, really strong. Whether you're giving your androids, whether it's Mira, crit, or double strike, you're giving your 17 or 18 double strike that have crit on it. And in case you have to attack with it, you're giving your leader double strike going in for lethal. All kinds of really cool stuff there. So yeah, an idea situation, just kind of playing it out for you, is turn 1. You open your hand, you get rid of all of your big cell pieces on your mulligan. Hopefully you don't draw any into any of them off the mulligan. Look at your hand. You see what you don't have. Let's say you're missing a 17, you're missing an 18, or you're missing a cell. I always end up missing the 3-drop cell more than I do the other ones. But ideally, I'm wanting to play a Create Android, dig, discard, go into turn 2. Hopefully they're not pressuring us. If they pressure us for just 1, like I said, we ideally want to combo out of it so we're not left at 7. If they want to pressure us for 2, whether it be with like a combo or something like that, we'll totally take that. That way we can just still get the value out of the TN and everything like that. So then on turn 2, play another energy, swing with our leader. Again, we try to be as super aggressive as possible with our leader. We want to attack them as much as possible to put cards in their hand. The more cards we put in their hand, the better. So whenever we get our cell chain off, we're getting value out of it. And then we combo with our TN, we go do all of our stuff, we awaken. On our awakening turn, we put a card underneath before we awaken. If we can kill a dude, great. If not, we're still putting that card underneath it for later. We flip, we draw our 2, put a card underneath, draw 2 more. All sorts of card draw there. If it's a turn that we're able to TN off of 8 down to 4 and awaken in the same turn, you're drawing 2 cards off of your life from TN, and then you're drawing 4 cards from awakening and then attaching a card underneath it. So you're going up quite a bit of cards. You're going up 6 cards just off of that, which is a really cool thing to do. Like I said, you're really wanting to pressure your opponent to awaken as soon as possible and then put as many cards in their hand. Obviously, if you're playing against a leader that untaps energy as opposed to drawing 2 cards, you're not necessarily worried about awakening them before you get the cell chain off, but you don't really ever want to cell chain before drawing leader awakens, because basically they're just going to awaken on that next turn, draw back up to the full hand that they had before you chain them. So that's really important plays to pay attention to. But anyway, guys, that is the deck list. Let me know what y'all think down below. Like I said, I've had a lot of success with this locally, online, on the streams, everything like that. Be sure to check out on our streams on the Dirt City Gym at twitch.com and all that good stuff. But anyway, guys, that is it, and we will see y'all next time.